And I'm Suzanne Cole Sullivan. I'm the third member of the clerking team for the 2022 gathering. I'm glad y'all are here.
Just want to give a shout out to the FGC staff and the gathering staff that have been working really hard to put together this fabulous conference and have gone through iterations of new ideas, new ways to do this work. So I want to name Lori, Elizabeth, Marion, and Pim, and the countless other volunteers and other folks who have been in support of moving this particular gathering forward. I also want to give a big shout out to our committee and our committee members um, for both the actual and potential energy invested into this gathering. They've brought so much to the table, and we've barely scratched the surface on their awesomeness. Thank you all for those folks who have served in the 2022 Gathering Committee. And if you're here, if you could please wave so everyone can see you and just give us a moment to share some appreciation with you.
And now I'm excited to introduce Tim Knesh from Minnesota via Nashville to give Tom Knesh from Minnesota via Nashville to give our land and labor acknowledgement.
Hi, my name is Tom Kunish. To honor my great aunts, Jenny and Lucy No Ears, who were both sent separately from Standing Rock in Lakota Territory to Hampton Institute there in Virginia in the 1880s, we call each other to acknowledge Roanoke, Virginia, as the ancestral home of the Yesun people, who were Eastern Dakotan, known also as the Chudalo, and allied with the Saponi, who started their move to the north in the 1700s for protection and to get away from the encroaching whites, ending up in Canada and absorbed into the Cayuga Nation. We call each other to atone for Quaker participation in the removal of indigenous people from this land, assuming, along with the rest of Europe, that Europeans had a divine right to this land of Turtle Island and named it after themselves: America, Pennsylvania, Virginia. We call each other to consider the historical Quaker peace testimony as really an extension of what benefited the Imperial Pax Britannica for English trade and commerce, to ask why Quakers were silent about the violence and war done to exterminate indigenous peoples and lands here, and to question the euphemism of Indian boarding schools that were actually government re-education camps of Pax Americana, in which Euro-American adults forced indigenous parents to give up their children to the USA melting pot of forced religion. Land acknowledgement is a baby step of decolonizing. Real decolonization and Quaker universalism mean honoring indigenous lands through land rematriation, reducing the focus on Euro-American Semitic religion, and centering the good found in indigenous beliefs in Quaker meetings and theology. Towards these goals, FGC has made a rent payment to the Monacan Nation, whose ancestral lands include parts of Virginia, West Virginia, and North Carolina, as part of moving our land acknowledgement from words to actions. We welcome you to put the nations of the lands you're on in the chat right now. If you do not know whose lands you are currently on, you can use this website to find out. Sure, it will be in the chat, native-land.ca out of Canada. We also acknowledge that much of what we know as this country today, including its culture, economic growth, and development in the past 80 years, has been made possible, just a minute, I'm going to scoot this up, has been made possible by the unpaid and stolen labor of enslaved Africans and their ascendants who suffered the horror of the transatlantic trafficking of their people, chattel slavery, and Jim Crow. We are indebted to their labor and their sacrifice. We, especially white Quakers, must acknowledge the still continuing tremors of that violence into our generations and the resulting impact that can still be felt and witnessed today. Thank you.
We'll give a moment to have people continue to enter the lands and the spaces they occupy here in the chat. We'll look for that. And as we are entering some of that information about where we are coming from, I want to begin to recognize that we have Quaker communities, all the different Quaker communities that are with us this week, that kind of crisscross the lines of states and countries to join us here in this virtual setting. If you have an opportunity, please put your Quaker community into the chat as well. For me, that can look like a worship group, a small group of friends, a monthly meeting, etc. So please share those different groups, names in the chat, those different Quaker communities that hold you and bring you to this space today. And now it's time for roll call.
Roll call.
Hi, friends. My name is Michelle Bellows, and I go by she, her pronouns. I'm talking to you from my home in Northern California, and I'm here as clerk of the Long Range Conference Planning Committee of Friends General Conference, which has the charge of overall care of the gathering. I want to welcome you to the 2022 virtual gathering. I'm glad you're here. This evening, I want to lift up the FGC virtual gathering expectations. Each one of us agreed to this as we completed our registration. please take a moment to review it again. This agreement sets out important guidelines that are intended to protect every person's safety in our time together. It starts out with these words: "The gathering seeks to be a community of friends living in the discipline of the Spirit." By now, we all have experience in online interaction. Let's think afresh about how the discipline of the Spirit can be manifest in our time together. Our online gathering is accessible to friends across the globe and from diverse abilities, identities, and backgrounds. We come together seeking connection with one another and with the Spirit in a safe community. And I'm going to go off script here for just a moment and suggest that you page through the screens and see the faces or names of people that we are worshiping with and that we are engaging with in the week to come. This is our community, friends. Each one of us carries responsibility in creating the environment that each one of us needs to be able to enter into the spirit of worship. In our community, we want to hold the space for experiences of the coming week to nurture each and every one of us. Let's approach our time together in gratitude. In our workshops, hangouts, plenaries, and other comings together, let's be reminded to treat one another and ourselves with patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. We already know this. Connecting online, we have to be careful in a different way from how we are in person. We're limited to images on a screen, so we can't see all of the effects of what we might say. Let our words reflect how we are holding one another tenderly. Words that demean groups or individuals are outside of the discipline of the Spirit and have no place in our community, in our gathering. Let's remember, too, that in many cases, children could be present and listening, as they do, in the background, and use our words with that awareness in mind. If you feel unsafe in any gathering setting, if you feel harassed, or if you experience racial wounding, we want you to know that the gathering has resources in place to help with accompaniment, healing, and restoration. You can find these resources via links to the harassment policy, the racial wounding reporting form, and the virtual gathering expectations. These links are all in the final details email that you received, as well as on the FGC website. And now, let's embrace that joy that's available to us when we gather together. The joy that comes with deep worship and fresh understanding and sharing these experiences in community. Striving together to create a community of friends living in the discipline of the Spirit. May we each be nourished by its light. Thank you, friends. And now, back to our 2022 clerks.
Hello, friends. We, Rebecca Cole Sullivan, Suzanne Cole Sullivan, and myself are your clerking team for the 2022 FGC gathering. Welcome. We are glad to see you. We would be remiss if we did not acknowledge our two elders who have poured their wisdom, passion, and time and thoughtful inquiries into the gathering by thanking Toby Burla and Martin Melville. Both have plunged into the deep unknown, and we are grateful for their companionship. As a clerking team, we're excited to welcome you to this gathering. The prospect of sharing this week, some for the first time, and for the first time in a long time, is thrilling. We must recognize the ways that our lives have changed in the last year. As the people who live into the theology of continual revelation and Spirit-led faith, we have the opportunity to bring our full and new selves into this time together. Suzanne and I are bringing a culmination of life changes. In addition to starting gathering planning typically later than normal, each clerk has gotten a new job, moved, and made significant life changes during the course of the shaping of this gathering.
All three of your clerks will be at the Yay gathering as adult young friends. And later this week, Suzanne and myself will be attending the Bridge Year because we've both aged out of AYF during the pandemic.
We represent something new in the work of Friends. Normally, the clerks of our Quaker spaces have the luxury of free time via careers that are winding down, or thanks to stability of retirement. Similarly, our communities often name clerks and other leaders who are thought workers or people who can find a few minutes from their office to be present for a phone call or to answer an email. This has certainly been true of the majority of gathering clerks going back decades, with a handful of recent notable exceptions. This year, the search committee from Piedmont Friends Fellowship and yearly meeting in North Carolina felt called to name a team of young clerks in full-time, early to mid-career jobs. One of our clerks and our friend in residence are blue-collar workers, which is another layer of remove from Quaker business as normal. The only constant in our clerking is that we are all able to sit with the practice of working through ambiguous spaces. What a skill during the pandemic. We show up for this work because we want to co-create the future of Quakerism. We have faith in what being a Quaker means in this world, and we are invested in living that out. Our gathering theme, and follow me, flows from what Spirit has asked us to do with this gathering. The process of assembling something like the gathering is a major ask on the part of Spirit. We welcome you to this amazing space that has been lifted up and loved into being via tenacity, flexibility, prayer, worship, a lot of text messages, and a few tears. The gathering is a container for each of us to fill with love, honesty, passion, kindness, and fearlessness. That process where every individual is responsible to lead and to follow, to listen and respond, to grieve and heal, to share in the work and to also benefit from it. It's all deeply connected to our theme of the gathering.
And follow me. Each year, the gathering is a space to stretch and grow, asking us to find the boundaries of our own needs, to check in with ourselves, our bodies, and one another. As we discover our own needs, we, as a worshiping community, have the opportunity to curate practices and habits, to ask for help, to try new things, and to interrogate our discomfort. We invite you to use the theme as a conversation starter when you encounter someone new or run into a familiar face. Bravely and gently ask what leadings or teachings other friends are following. Ask yourself what you are being called to follow. Or, as Kira would ask, what calling are you reluctant to follow? What does that feel like? What would happen if you did follow? We are mindful that as we re-enter this space together, we are all grieving. Grief is not simply present after the loss of someone, but it takes different forms and space in our lives. Some of our grief is rooted in hanging on to things that no longer serve us, while other parts are because of people, dreams, goals, experiences, and more that were taken away too soon. We have space for grief here, alongside the joy. We hope you find a space for yourself here in our community of communities. This is a space where we can be tender with ourselves and others, a space where we can be transformed, and a space where we can build the community we seek. Welcome again to a week of learning, growing, celebrating, sharing, trying, failing, and trying again. Thank you for following what brought you here. We're glad it did.
Over the past 2 years, the silent worship that may fill a room with emotional and spiritual noise has been pulled online. That presence does not translate to quite the same way, and many people have been left behind in online worships. Equally true is that many people were excluded from our in-person worships well before we discovered Zoom, for many of the same reasons. 2 of your clerks are neurodivergent, and all of your clerks are interested in what experiences Spirit is calling us to encounter as we grow. To that end, we are inviting you to an embodied experience of worship. In many ways, this form of worship allows people whose brains encounter the world in a different key to find a place to rest. This may feel uncomfortable for you. Hi, welcome to that discomfort. We invite you to follow us into the unknown and uncomfortable to see what might spark for you here. We invited one of Suzanne's classmates from seminary to bring us an embodiment experience. Our open-ended ask was met with a healing-focused visualization, which Elena noted spoke to what was on her heart. This theme also speaks to our condition as we consider what our bodies, the gathering community, the wider Quaker world, and the whole of the United States are feeling this summer. This is a time to bring your needs, both for yourself and for your communities, to the divine for healing care. We will close the embodiment experience with a query that will carry us into open worship.
Elena Hoffman, she, her, is an artist, minister, and semi-professional try-it-outer and general ray of sunshine in the upper Midwest. She is a recent graduate of United Theological Seminary of the Twin Cities, where she studied interfaith chaplaincy, church leadership, and theology in the arts. Elena uses whimsy, fun, and a lot of paint to inspire hope and grow community. Her primary mediums for changing the world and making art are storytelling and improv performance, but she doesn't say no to a fun mess. She rolls with an adult diagnosis of ADHD and embraces the holy experiment of being neurodivergent. Right now, she is serving an on-call shift as a hospital chaplain intern, so her ministry to us comes in the form of a recorded embodiment piece. She is part of the UCC tradition, but her work with healing spaces knows no particular tradition. The artwork used during the embodiment piece was painted by and provided by Elena Hoffman herself.
Close your eyes. Find a comfortable position with your hands open, palms up, and begin to slow your breathing. Let the screen of your mind fill with all the to-dos and tasks and what-ifs that your day is holding. Now, take a black paint roller and paint it all, covering every inch of your mind's wall. It is a clean, black canvas. Listen to your breath. Expand the black wall in front of you. Deepen it into a room that you can step into, and then keep expanding it until it becomes infinite black space. Within that infinite space, create a peaceful place to rest. A space with grass and a gentle river. What color is the sky? You can hear the river. You are sitting in the grass. The sun is warm. Maybe this is a place you know and are familiar with, or maybe this is a new creation. What elements can you add to this place that increase your feeling of peace? Flowers? The sound of birds? Take a moment to play and create with God. As your mind self sits in the grass, bow your mind's head and close your mind's eyes, still aware of the nature around you, and speak in your mind words of invitation. Loving God, please join me here. God is joining you. Is God sitting to your left or your right? You sense God's presence. In a moment, you are going to turn to face God, and God will be wearing a human form that you will instantly recognize as safe and loving. You will know God even though you've never seen God. Open your mind's eyes now. God is looking at you with great kindness. God is enjoying the warm sunshine and green grass with you. Take a moment to offer your gratitude to God and name any other emotions that you hold. This space is able to hold your truest self. God welcomes you as you are. You are able to know God's thoughts as God is able to know yours. You ask God, God, when is a time you were proud of me? God smiles and brings to your mind a specific moment in time. Ask God what areas of your self-perception God wants to speak love and healing to. Ask God how God views you, what words God uses to describe you. Thank God through words or through embracing, and allow yourself to be fully known and fully loved in this moment. God is now going to walk into the river as you walk to the river's edge. God is in the middle of the gentle stream. The water is just below God's chest. On the stream's edge, bring to mind someone in your life who is in pain, either physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. Picture them standing next to you. See the pain they carry. Put your arm around them and gently pick them up in your arms. Hold them. Feel the weight of them. When you are ready, walk into the stream toward God. As you walk deeper into the stream, the water rises to help you carry the weight of the person you are holding. As you join God, God reaches out and you place the person you carry into the arms of God. You continue to hold this person with God in the gentle stream. Gold light is emanating from God into the water. As you gently hold this person in the illuminated water, you see the pain melt off their face. You see calm and peace and wholeness restored in them. God is present. They are held. God, you who are beyond understanding but never beyond loving, hold these precious people. Hold us all. Hold us near. Let us join you in these holy waters today. And as Julian of Norwich said, all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. Amen.
We invite you to worship around the following query this evening. What do I do with my own discomfort?